So what exactly do the attacks on Paul Pelosi by David DePape and January 6th have in common? Much more than what you might actually first assume. Now, what really starts this off is the fact that Paul Pelosi's attacker, David DePape, his alleged attacker, he had zip ties. He had a bag with some zip ties. We got zip ties, 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 zip ties. Just more zip ties. Zip ties, duct tape, and zip ties. And then this is where it really starts to get interesting. Pelosi's attack shocks country on edge about democracy threats. And I guess to a certain point, but I think for most reasonable people, we see this as what it is, regardless of the motivations. It's a crazy attack. It's a crazy assault. And I don't think anybody who wants to exist in a republic condones this. And I think that means that it's not really a threat to democracy because there's not a whole lot of people doing this. But let's keep looking in deeper to this. Why do the zip ties matter? Oh, it's because it echoes the January 6th insurrection. It's an echo, echoing Jan 6, in an echo of January 6th. And we'll just keep going through these just because they all say the exact same thing. And echo Jan 6, echo Jan 6, 1/6 echo. Yeah. So, and then we get to some more interesting commentary on this because the insinuation throughout all of these articles is that this is stemming from right-wing violence. If I go back to, I think one of these articles talks about how Biden basically blames it on the same situation, which I don't really care, again, what the motivations were, but I kind of refuse to allow this narrative to be constructed not for either side, and you'll see why in a second. And so one of the main things that they use for this is the zip ties, and then also they make the link between him saying, "Where's Nancy?" and apparently rioters who swarmed the Capitol trying to overturn Joe Biden's election victory over Donald Trump roam the halls, shouting menacingly and demanding, "Where's Nancy?" Which I believe what David DePape asked Paul Pelosi was, "Where's Nancy?" Now, that's not actually what happened, and there's no link between people who are saying, "Where's Nancy?" and zip ties. So let's understand that. The people who were saying, "Where's Nancy?" well, it wasn't really even people. It was one person. Literally one guy was live streaming himself, and he is the one who was saying, "Where's Nancy office?" I could be wrong about this. Maybe there's, but I researched this, and this is what I'm finding in relation to this idea of like, "Where's Nancy?" And then the zip tie situation, that was zip tie guy, who they literally call zip tie guy. So again, one guy, absolutely zero relation to the guy who was looking for Nancy Pelosi. This dude was specifically targeting Mike Pence. Huh. Oh, that's funny. Oh, wait, where did they? Capitol riot mob may have been targeting Mike Pence. Mike Pence chanted to hang vice president. And they kind of go into, here it is. So photos have surfaced of the attacks, which showed some of those who were part of an insurrection carrying zip ties, which indicated if they found any representatives, they had intended to restrain them. And there's other articles I remember about this, but that was the focus. It was not on the other side. This is exactly what I remember from an objective point of view. That was what the whole talking point was that these people were going in and they were trying to take Republicans They were their constituents who were coming in and trying to take politicians who they saw as leaving Donald Trump and betraying him. This was not right-wingers coming in to try to specifically target who they saw the elections being lost to these politicians who wouldn't stand ground for Donald Trump. And that's who they were targeting. It literally says it right here. And again, even outside of that, the Where's Nancy thing and the zip ties, they don't have any connection to each other. And ultimately, really none of this matters because it's all just trying to obfuscate the fact that there's radicalization happening on both sides. I don't care. I literally do not care. But what I do care about is whether or not people are becoming more radicalized to these ideas. And it's so obvious from this situation that that's what was happening. Like David Pape, he was a nudist activist. There's like real evidence of this. And yeah, he had some weird ideas, like some really crazy stuff in here that I had where he was like complaining about how there's no actual fairy houses that are built, which is actually kind of funny because he's technically right. I don't think anybody's building houses for literal fairies, but he's clearly a crazy person. And the like slight bit of rhetoric that has some tie-in to right-wing people does not, it was really more anti-government stuff, and his real political views are leftist. They're progressive. And like, if people just want to just throw themselves into cognitive dissonance, ignore what actually happened on January 6th, when all of these narratives have been created around it, just to go on and like blatantly lie to create this weird narrative, instead of actually acknowledging the truth, which is that radicalization is happening on both sides. And when these constituents get upset, they're going to go after the people who radicalize them. And that's not the other side. So it's just like so crazy to me to see this stuff where people just like refuse to stick to the facts that most of these people reported on. And then kind of on top of that, I mean, you can see, you could literally do this type of reporting with a bot. It's like so uncreative and lazy. Maybe it's just that. I don't really know, and I'm not going to draw any conclusions, but at least just from that, I mean, seeing the same headline over and over and over again is just really brain numbing. And so I don't really want to participate, and I'm down to kind of point out the discretion that these people have taken in reporting on the facts. And it's just, it doesn't all line up. There's clearly a narrative that's trying to be pushed here. And instead of realizing the actual problem, there's just like a refusal. And that's just going to lead to more of these types of situations, because we just can't actually look at the true cause. This always has to be a talking point. And to me, that's like pretty disgusting, because somebody was actually hurt in this situation, and it's just ignoring the truth of the situation. That's about it.